So, today they released patch notes for Wave 2 of the title update 6 PTs, and I thought I would go over it, focusing on the important changes. This will be a bit different format than my previous patch notes videos, so let me know what you think about this format in the comment section. So to start it off, we have some options and control changes, and I'm gonna highlight the one change that I've been asking for over 2 years to happen, which is hipfire now forces character to walk. So hipfire will not be as good in PvP. It makes sense for a game like this with a Tom Clancy title over it, and it's supposed to be a cover-based shooter. It doesn't really make sense when everybody's just dancing around hipfiring. So yeah, I'm pretty happy about that one. And especially since I do think like everybody hip firing, it just, yeah, it's not fun. It's not that skilled either, so I'm happy with that. We will see how it turns out though. Other than that, there's nothing really that stands out to me, so let's just move on. So we have a few changes to skills. In terms of PvP, they finally fixed the chem launcher so you don't heal hostiles. Because before you could use your chem launcher heal, you would fight somebody, and if you were rogue and they were non-rogue, they could go in and get the heal as well. So it was pretty dumb, but yeah, I'm happy it's finally fixed. Even though it shouldn't got them fixed earlier though, right? They also individually tuned all skills for PvP. You can see all the values here. I'm not gonna talk about these values though, since I think I would need some in-game testing for that, but it's really good to see them making use of modifiers like this for PvP, while not changing it for the PV, right? So happy about that. Next up, we have some changes to exotic weapons, specifically the talents mainly. So starting with the Eagle Bearer, as everybody know, it got a 15% damage nerf in the first PTS patch. I don't know why it was in the PTS 1, but I guess the build probably had the Eagle Bearer nerf, and yeah, the rest was not done yet. So anyway, looking at the Eagle Bearer, it actually got buffed in terms of talents, which they also did state would happen, but yeah, people missed that and people were furious. So instead of getting 35% damage per headshot kill, you now get 50%, so you basically get the 15% damage back in that talent. And in PvP, it's gonna stay 35% as before. Then they also changed tenacity from starting at 20% to 40 damage reduction, and decreasing the kills to reduce the damage taken from tenacity from 5 to 3. So looking at this overall, this gun actually got quite buffed as long as you play the gun correctly, which I think, yeah, that's the way to go. The talents are super strong, and yeah, like I'm overall happy with the way they changed it, right? Then we're moving on to another popular exotic, which is Nemesis. It is getting a nerf to the holster talent from 25% headshot damage to 15%. And PvP will stay at 10% as before. Not the biggest fan of this nerf, to be honest, since I'm a big fan of headshot damage, but I guess we'll see how this will pan out. Other than that, it's staying the same though. Next up, we have Chatterbox. They increased the kill refill from 20% to 75%, and also buffed the mag increase from 1 to 3, so you faster get up to 60, which is still the cap. But with this kill increasement, you will never have to reload the Chatterbox if you play it correctly, which is really nice to see, because it makes it even more unique that you don't have to reload it as long as you play it correctly, right? They did, however, nerf the holster talent to 15% rate of fire instead of 20, but I think that's fine. They are nerfing some holster talents that are too strong, right? Then we have Sweet Dreams. They got an added function to it, so when you dodge with the gun in your hand, you get 50% more weapon damage for 2 seconds. Which is pretty cool, so you just dodge around and shoot super hard, like dodge, shoot, dodge, shoot. So it's nice to see something added to this gun, even though I think they could have done something better than this, but it's nice to see it's there at least. They also increased the armor granted from melee hits from 35% to 60%. That's only in PvE though. In PvP it's gonna be 35%. The rest of the gun is the same. Looking at Pestilence, it's getting buffed as well. They're buffing the toxic cloud damage from 400% to 1200%. Quite a big buff for the cloud. The PvP version, however, it's staying the same at 500%. Then we have Merciless, which is not only getting a talent buff, but they are increasing the rate of fire from 260 RPM to 400. And then the talent buff from the primer, the detonated damage is up to 100% from 75, while in PvP it's still gonna stay at 75%. Also, the holster talent is getting a huge buff, 100% damage instead of the previous 20%. So that might actually be pretty good now. Then we have the new exotic Diamondback that's getting a little buff to the reload bonus armor, 20% instead of 15%. Apparently it said this in the tooltip already, but it only gave you 15%. For PvP though, it's getting a new function, and I freaking love this one. Headshots against players are guaranteed to crit, and provides a stack of deep fangs. This one is big, and maybe with the right builds, this could be really fun in PvP. Like, I'm definitely gonna look into that later. But that's all for the exotic weapon changes. Pretty happy with most of them, I gotta say. Maybe not all of them are perfect, but seeing the changes, especially buffs, it's just good to get some variation in the game, right? And some changes. Always up for that. Then we have 4 new talents, and if you did check the patch notes for week 1, you've seen 3 of them already. So they did add a new talent that's called the Composure. While in cover, grants 10% total weapon damage, and it can be found on knee pads. It does require 11 offensive attributes, which I'm not a fan of. I think that's way too much to ask for, but it's nice to see them adding a talent like this in the game, since it is a cover-based shooter, or at least trying to be in PvE. So yeah, pretty nice to see that. The other 3 talents didn't really change at all. The only thing they did was to add offensive attributes requirements. So yeah, some interesting new talent for sure. And then we have passive gear talents, which they did a big change to. So they are changing them. So before you could stack them, like a lot of PvE builds, or most of them, you would stack hard hitting everywhere. But now they changed that, so it's unique equip, which means, yeah, you can't stack them anymore. You can only use one. And with that changed, they buffed most of the talent to make up for that. I'm not really sure what I think about this. Like, sure, it doesn't force you to spec everything into hard hitting, right? But at the same time, like for PvP, I love to stack my precise headshot damage, and even having it like this, there's still gonna be a combo that will be the best for like damage building, etc. But I'm open to see how this changes things around, and I guess all in all, it's more a positive thing than negative at least. So yeah, we will see how this plays out. Then moving on to active gear talent changes, which I think we went through in Pete's one note, so I'm not gonna talk too much about this. But they basically nerfing the meta talents such as On the Ropes, Bloodsucker, Spotter, and then they buffing underperforming talents. So I think it's, yeah, all in all, good to see, like, if something is too strong, you nerf it, right? If something is too weak, you buff it, and they meet in the middle. So yeah, pretty happy with that. Then we have weapon talents. Not too much to say here either. Pre-med is getting nerfed, which in my opinion could actually need a rework instead, since it works so insanely good with the double barrels. Other than that, seeing Rifleman getting buffed is nice because it's such a hard talent to play. But other than that, I don't think there's too much details for me to talk about here. Just check the screen right for yourself. Then we move on to the big weapon balancing. I think this is the biggest weapon balance I ever seen in Division. They almost balanced every weapon in the game, which is really nice to see. So I'm not gonna talk about every gun in the categories. I will just talk about what stands out to me at first glance. So starting with ARs, every gun is getting buffed except the P416, which is really good to see, because P4 was just way overtuned, and with these buffs there should finally be some variety in terms of ARs. And seeing a gun like Carbine 7 getting an 8% damage increase, it makes me happy, because that gun felt really good, sounded really good, but it was just not playable because it didn't do any good damage at all, especially comparing to P4. And then we have the M4 with a whooping 10% damage increase. Like, M4 is back. So I'm pretty happy with that. Then we're moving on to LMGs. We have the same thing happening here. The super strong weapons such as M60 and M249 are getting damage nerfs, while all other LMGs are getting buffed. Which is great to see. Like, this is how weapon balancing, or just balancing overall, should work. So I'm just really happy to see that they're doing it this way. Even though, yeah, like everything is not gonna be perfect, but it's just a good start at least. And then to like fine tune it later. But what sticks out here for me in terms of LMGs, we actually do see RPK getting a buff, even though I feel like RPK is pretty good LMG. And with this buff, I think this is probably gonna be the next LMG to go for, but we will see. Then we have a look at the snipers. There's a lot of damage buffs, but no nerfs actually. The Damage King Model 700 keeps the damage, while all other snipers are getting big buffs. I guess the sniper that I do miss in the list here is the SR1, so I'm pretty sad about that one not getting buffed. I feel like it's gonna be left behind though, right, with all the buffs to the other guns? Because SR1 was definitely my favorite sniper playing this game before release, right? So yeah, I would definitely like that one to keep up with the better guns, so hopefully it does. But yeah, M700 Carbon is getting a 19% damage increase, and most of the snipers here are getting huge increases. So hopefully this means that most snipers will be really similar in damage, so you could use the one you prefer the most. Of course, if a gun has faster reload speed, rate of fire, mag size and all that, you have to look at that a little bit. But Model 700 was just way too strong, and you were always forced to use that instead of using like a Carbon, for example. So hopefully this pans out good. Then we have rifles, which are super underused, but looking at these changes gives some hope if you like rifles. Like, all of them are getting buffed, except the SIG 716, which gets a 7% damage nerf. Like, I'm not sure why this one is getting nerfed. Like, I never felt like the SIG was that good. Like, it's been definitely up there, but I always preferred MK17 or MDR, so I'm not sure what's going on here actually. But seeing guns like the M16, they're getting a 68% damage buff, it's just crazy. I mean, I guess now the M16 will actually be worth using. But yeah, I'm actually not even sure if it will though, but I mean, 68% is crazy. But before, it's just always been completely shit, right? So yeah, I guess it will be usable now. But it's definitely interesting to see this love for rifles though, and hopefully there will be a bit more use, because they are harder to use than like your AR or LMG, right? Then we have the last gun type, which is, yeah, SMGs. So all of them are getting damage buffs as well, but most noticeable is the MPX, which is getting 38% damage increase. And even the Victors are getting some love. The .45 ACP version is getting a 25% buff, which sounds, yeah, that's actually like super high though, right? But yeah, that's all of the weapon buffs. So all in all, almost all weapons except the super meta guns are getting buffed, which is super nice to see. Hopefully this does allow for a more diverse meta when it comes to weapons. And I mean, looking at the big picture here with all the talent changes and all that, it should definitely change the meta and hopefully to something better. But since it is a loot shooter, there will always be a meta, no matter what, but hopefully it's a good meta and it's not like something that's like 10 times stronger than everything else, right? But yeah, with that said, what do you think will be the new king in terms of weapons or talents and such? Let me know in the comment section, because it would be interesting to see, right? So that's kind of it for this video. So to conclude the video, I'm personally really happy to see all this. Sure, it might not be perfect, as I said earlier, but this is gonna change the game quite a bit in terms of metas and builds. And I think a game like Division really needs this. It's just that something that they really do have to improve on is to tweak stuff over time and react faster, because previously they've been really slow to that. So I just hope that they could react a bit faster, right? Because when they take long time to tweak stuff, people farm for it, and then when they get it after farming for weeks, they nerf it and people get upset, which is understandable. Anyway, hope you guys enjoy this new format. Let me know what you think, and see you guys in the next video.